Good evening, Britannia, and hello to the rest of the world. Welcome to 2CTV and hopefully the last live update of the evening. This is about Keir Starmer's new Labour cabinet. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a warning to everybody, not just in the United Kingdom, but the rest of the world, wherever you're watching this from. Do not do this to yourselves. Do not do this to your countries. The next few years are going to be extremely dark years in British politics. In this video, we're going to go through some of the key appointments in Keir Starmer's government. We have open border, globalists, and a number of shocking appointments, which we'll go through all of them, including Islamist sympathizers. Let's get on with the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's start with our favourite, David Lammy. There were a lot of speculations that David Lammy will not, in fact, become Foreign Secretary. He has become Foreign Secretary. So, there are a number of issues with this. First things first, David Lammy is woke. Surprise, surprise. Secondly, David Lammy is an ultra-globalist. David Lammy is a member of Bilderberg. Yes, he attends Bilderberg secret meetings. Of course, this was about a year ago, 2 years ago, when he had an issue. The first invitation he got from Bilderberg, when he went there, nobody knew who he was, including the security. So he had to explain, he had to go through his phone, try to find the invitation in his emails. He couldn't find his ID or whatever happened. He had to go back to the hotel and he had to drop his bag. He came back and eventually Bilderberg said, yes, Mr. Lammy, the future Foreign Secretary of the UK, welcome. We will talk to you about how you can run the United Kingdom from the Foreign Office. So that's David Lammy, and he's got a lot of issues, of course, but that's not really the worst appointment anyway. Let's talk about Angela Rayner. It's not really a surprise that she has become Deputy Prime Minister, but also Secretary of State for Levelling Up and Housing. This is going to be fun, isn't it? So once I go through some of these shocking appointments, I'm going to go through the list of the actual roles and the ministers and the qualification or lack of qualifications that they actually have. I think it's important for the sake of democracy for everybody to know who their representatives are and who their government ministers are, because the BBC, Sky News and all the others are not going to go through the details, their backgrounds and everything else. Now, Angela Rayner is a special case, as you guys know. This is what she was wearing earlier today. Not really sure why. When she walked into Downing Street, she's also been a little bit vile in her language against conservative-minded people. She called them scum or whatever she called them, and so she is now going to be levelling up the country. Basically, build back better, as Klaus Schwab would say. So, Rachel Reeves. This woman has become our Chancellor. She's going to be in charge of the public purse, our finances, your taxes. The first female Chancellor. Keir Starmer and the Labour Party are extremely proud. What is her problem? She's an ultra-globalist as well. She goes to Davos with her boss, Keir Starmer. They go to the World Economic Forum annual conferences, even when the last couple of years WEF became so controversial that a lot of prime ministers and presidents decided not to go. They sent a representative from their government. For example, Rishi Sunak sent Kemi Badenoch to go to Davos. But the leader of the opposition decided, no, we are proud of what we can achieve when we go to the World Economic Forum. So he and Rachel Reeves went there. They made a lot of important contacts with the big corporations, big financial donors, good networking, and I don't know what else happened there, but they enjoyed it. So ultra-globalist in charge of our finances, and she is also not good at economics. Her economics and her mindset is Keynesianism. God help us all. Another Keynesian. These people do not understand basic economics. They don't understand or like Hayek or Mises or basic radical monetary policies. These people are going to be printing money like there's no tomorrow, more than Jeremy Hunt and Rishi Sunak. There's not much difference between them, but they're just going to do it more openly and proudly. This is one of the worst appointments we've had. Yvette Cooper, the Right Honourable Yvette Cooper, Secretary of State for the Home Department, which means she is our new Home Secretary. She's going to be in charge of policing and, of course, immigration, our borders. What is her problem? Wow. Her husband is Ed Balls, who almost became Chancellor, with Ed Miliband, obviously, as you guys know. She's a Brownite. So after the Blairite, we had the Brownite. It's basically a downgrade version of the Blairite. But the new Home Secretary, ladies and gentlemen, believes in open borders. She did a campaign, #Refugees Welcome. She was very proud of that campaign. She wants more mass migration, and she's now officially the Home Secretary. At least with the Tory party, with the Tory government, what we had a lot of empty promises, we had a lot of lies and failure and incompetence. But at least they were trying to pretend to be in defense of strong borders. These guys are not even going to bother lying to you. They're going to be openly being in favor of more migration, mass migration, legal and illegal. So refugees welcome, according to Yvette Cooper. Who's next? Oh, this one is worse. This one's definitely worse. Shabana Mahmood. Shabana Mahmood is our new Justice Secretary. Now, what is the problem with Mahmood? Ms. Mahmood is quite known to be at least an Islamist sympathizer. This is Shabana Mahmood at the anti-Jewish, anti-Israeli rallies, saying end Israeli occupation, free Palestine from the river to the sea. This woman is now in charge of our justice system, our judiciary, our courts, our judges. God help us all. So all these Islamists and the thugs and so-called Palestinian protesters who commit crimes. On the one hand, Eva Cooper is going to be in charge of policing. On the other hand, Shabana Mahmood is going to be in charge of the justice part of it. So you can do whatever you want, really, in this country going forward, because there's not going to be any sort of consequence. Not that things were perfect under the Tory government, but as I said, at least they were pretending to try their best, but they didn't get anything done. So, Islamist sympathizer, Justice Secretary, it gets worse. The Prince of Net Zero, Ed Miliband, is back. The failed party leader, the failed almost Prime Minister, is now Secretary of State for Net Zero. I love how the Tory government created this role, merged these two roles, energy security and net zero, which we already made fun of when they did this a couple of years ago. It's an oxymoron. You can't have energy security and net zero at the same time in the same portfolio. But who is Ed Miliband's idol, for example? When it comes to people who have wisdom, when it comes to expertise, well, Ed Miliband thinks Greta Thunberg is extremely wisdomous. This is my favorite photo of both Ed Miliband and Greta Thunberg. Look at that. The absolute state of both of them. I don't know who I should feel sorry for more, Ed or Greta, or the British people, really. So this is Ed and his climate advisor, Greta. It gets worse. I know I've been saying that. It's getting worse. Guess who else is joining this cabinet? All right, this is no longer a joke. This is actually quite serious because this is scandalous. Patrick Vallance. Patrick Vallance. Now, if you're watching from abroad or if you haven't been following politics for a long time, I'm going to explain who this person is. Sir Patrick Vallance. Patrick Vallance was Mr. COVID. He was our version of Dr. Fauci, Anthony Fauci. This man was responsible for a lot of the lockdowns and measures advising the government, but he was a civil servant. He was a bureaucrat, not political. Just like Sue Gray, who was also a bureaucrat, a civil servant. By default, that means they have to be impartial. They have to be non-political. Both of them are now part of the Labour government. Sue Gray as Chief of Staff to Keir Starmer's office. Patrick Vallance is now Minister of State in the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. That's a very scary department if you have someone like Patrick Vallance in it as a minister, by the way. The man who has been defending and supporting and promoting the WEF's net zero measures promoted by the Labour Party. For example, potentially climate lockdowns. Potentially, allegedly, and other things as well. More taxes for net zero. Your cars will be cancelled by 2030, your diesel cars and petrol cars. Patrick Vallance is now a politician. The man who was until 10 minutes ago an impartial civil servant, just like Sue Gray. The mask is slipping. The whole of civil service were infiltrated by Labour politicians in disguise, pretending to be impartial bureaucrats. Now, not to make any excuses for the Tory party and Tory government, because firstly, they were in charge, it's their fault, they made a mess. But at least 10% of the problems, you can explain it now, when you had civil servants who didn't believe in just following the orders from the government ministers, when you had civil servants who had political agendas. What do you think was going to happen? The government was not going to run in a smooth manner. It was never going to operate in a conservative manner. Good news is, Emily Thornberry is out. Yes, Emily, looking sad on the train right now. This is an old photo, by the way. Emily Thornberry was almost going to become our Attorney General. Last minute, Keir Starmer and the new government announced Emily Thornberry is not joining the government as Attorney General. In fact, she's not joining the cabinet at all. Now, there have been a lot of speculations. Perhaps she didn't pass the security clearance. Or perhaps, I don't know, maybe there's a conflict between Emily and Keir. Or something else. But you do not want Emily Thornberry outside the tent, pissing inside. Let's just say that. She could become a bit of a headache and trouble for Keir Starmer if he doesn't keep her happy somehow. Now, forget about all these people that I've already mentioned. Let's go through a list of all the jobs that we have in this cabinet, the ministers, and let's see what qualifications do they have. Are they actually in touch with society? Do they have any real life experience? Some do, some not, and some maybe. The leader, Prime Minister, is a senior lawyer. But we already know Keir Starmer's background a little bit iffy when it comes to his legal background. Deputy Leader, Angela Rayner, care worker and union rep. Okay. She's going to be levelling up the country using that on her CV. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, was simply a junior banking analyst. She's now in charge of our finances. The Education Secretary was a junior civil servant, essentially, bureaucrat in local government, now in charge of our schools. The Home Secretary has no life experience. Yvette Cooper has had no real jobs in her life. I know. Shocking, right? A classic career politician. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, his job was a public sector consultant. Whatever that means. He was consulting the public sector. Of course, Ed Miliband, no life experience, no real jobs all his life. He was just in academia and politics since he was 3 years old. Foreign Office, of course, David Lammy. Minor US attorney. Duchy of Lancaster, none. Minister without portfolio, portfolio junior lawyer, so not even a proper lawyer. Paymaster General, none. Justice Minister, Shabana Mahmood, the Islamist sympathizer, anti-Israeli. Junior lawyer. Junior lawyer is now going to be in charge of the justice system. She's going to be telling judges and lawyers. She's going to tell them how to run their lives. It's not good, is it? Now, Business and Trade Minister, no life experience. The Department for Work and Pensions, Liz Kendall, no job experience. Defense Secretary, journalist. Transport, volunteer special constable, so not even a real police officer. Culture Secretary, well, this is quite close. Culture Secretary, cellist and author. That's something. Okay, fair enough. The chairman of the party, public policy lecturer. Fine. The environment side, publisher, fair enough. Science Minister, aid worker, of course, it's Labour. And the Northern Ireland Minister, no life experience on his CV. Scotland, events and TV management. Welsh Secretary, human resources, okay. Attorney General, lawyer. It's the only one that actually works quite well. International development, no real jobs all their lives. Welcome to Socialist Britain. But not actually a socialist government, it's worse. It's a centralised globalist government, similar to what we had for 14 years, but on steroid.